What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Ralph's Real Review, where we close out the puberty era. And yes, I'm still trying to make that a thing by going over Oliver and Company, which is Disney trying. I'm currently on winter break and I do have some life events coming up. I'm running the Disney Marathon in a few weeks, and after that, I do coach basketball, so basketball season is starting. Anyway, I'm trying to create as many of these videos as I can over break. All of that to say, though, I'm hoping that we've passed our subscriber goal by the time this video goes live. But whether we have or haven't, I do hope that you subscribe to keep up with the series and get new reviews in 2025 and share it with your friends so you can all discuss. But for now, let's review. Oliver and Company starts with a kitten named Oliver essentially being left on the streets with all of his littermates. They get adopted and he's left to fend for himself. He accidentally befriends a dog named Dodger, who is voiced by Billy Joel, and he's introduced to this little ragtag family. The human owner, however, is in debt to a loan shark named Sykes, who is threatening to harm, I believe his name is Fagin, the human's name, if he doesn't come up with the money. In an attempt to help the owner, Oliver does get taken by a little rich girl. Her name is Jenny, but then she ends up back with the group, and I'll stop the synopsis there because I don't want to spoil a 36-year-old movie. In the animation department, I have Oliver and Company at 11th. This movie feels more similar to The Black Cauldron as opposed to The Great Mouse Detective, maybe for how they animated the people, but that's the part that I don't like. I'm mostly okay with the animals, but I don't like the way that the people or the backgrounds are designed for most of the movie, unless the backgrounds were CGI. However, even with that, I did like the use of CGI for the most part, but the contrast between when they had CGI backgrounds and animated backgrounds, it becomes more and more apparent throughout the movie. So I'm glad that they used it when they did as opposed to not using it at all, but I'm not sure that that means that they used it well. At storytelling, I have Oliver and Company right ahead of 101 Dalmatians at 9th, and truthfully, it's because I think this is just my favorite version of the same story, which is lost little animals need to find a home. In 101 Dalmatians and the Aristocats, it was more so that they were displaced from their home and they had to get back. This movie loosely explores the idea of what makes a better home. Is it the richness and the bells and the whistles, or is it the love of the people who are in it and took you in when you had nothing? And I don't think the movie really resolves that question, nor do I think it even intended to ask the question, really. But it ends with the idea that you could have the both. Nevertheless, 101 Dalmatians did not really ask or answer any thought-provoking questions, so I will give Oliver and Company a slight edge here. In the character department, I have to put Oliver and Company at 15th. Like The Great Mouse Detective, I feel the characters aren't as loved because Disney didn't push them as much. I saw potential for like a Great Mouse Detective Saturday morning show where we follow the adventures of Basil and Dawson, with Ratigan kind of lurking in the background as a big bad. And I kind of see that here to an extent, but not as much, right? So it would have been cool to see an Oliver and Company take on New York. But truthfully, the way that the story ends with the movie, it doesn't quite lend itself to that continuation in a TV show. However, these characters are very underrated, and I did thoroughly enjoy my time with them, and I wish we had more, but alas, here we are. For the Disney factor, I have Oliver and Company at 16th. Unfortunately, I do feel this movie is a good movie that you could have convinced me that anyone made. As a bit of a Disney nerd, I can see the handprints on this movie, like Billy Joel voice acting and making some songs. That's really an Eisner staple, and this was the first movie that Michael Eisner started production on from the beginning. I could see the influences that would go on to inspire later films in the Renaissance, but this one specifically felt like another animation company at the time could have made the same movie. It doesn't quite have the it factor for this department. For music, I have Oliver and Company at 10th, which brings me a lot of joy because I love how they used music in this movie. As I was doing research for the historical significance section, I saw that the team that was making the music was instructed to write for the characters in the movie, and that the soundtrack would be kind of tertiary in how they should be writing these songs. And if you saw my last review, I'll make sure that I link it on screen now. You'll know how much I love that idea. I think that that's how music in these movies should be done when it's done well. I think the songs in this movie maybe have a bit of a cult following, but nothing too popular. According to Wikipedia, there were 5 songs in this movie. However, I really only remember 3 of them, but I loved them. I thought they were catchy. I thought they fit into the movie seamlessly. I thought that they served the plot and the characters. However, they just didn't have that song that stood the test of time like some of the other movies above it, but overall, 10th is not bad. For box office success, I will say this movie is a lot harder to rank because I got some conflicting data. So just to get this out the way, I currently have Oliver and Company at 15th with a little over $182 million adjusted for inflation. The way I typically do this section is I check Box Office Mojo first. If they have already adjusted for inflation, then I just use their number. But secondarily, I will use an inflation calculator, which is created by some government labor bureau, to convert the reported grosses to an adjusted total. If there's re-releases, I'll do the same thing, but for the year of each release, and then add those multiple totals together. What's going to become interesting is we're getting into the realm of international releases, and the math I'm going to have to do is going to be interesting to say the least. But all of that to say, this section isn't an exact science, and I think it's going to continue to prove out that way, which is why I'm trying to address it now. I'm doing the best I can with what I have to remain accurate, and if I make a decision to rank outside of the grosses, I make sure to explain why. I felt this movie would be a good time to bring this up because for the first time I'm getting really conflicting reports. Box Office Mojo and my backup site, which is the numbers, claims that this only has a domestic release, or at least they don't have international data for Oliver and Company. Wikipedia and Google AI claim that there was an international release, which would increase the total grosses to over $100 million unadjusted for inflation, which would be huge. However, I can't verify those numbers anywhere, so for the sake of this review, we're just going to take the domestic grosses, but I do believe this will be the last time, as The Little Mermaid, which we will go over next week, should have both. Finally, in terms of historical significance, I have this movie at 19th. I think it's fine to a good movie that's buried in the Disney vault tight. If this was the first movie to cross $100 million and you can verify that, please let me know in the comments so I can adjust this for the final rankings. But as of now, there's really nothing to report in this category outside of it being Eisner's first animated project, and, well, the first one that he worked on from the beginning. And this is the last film pre-Renaissance, but I said those things earlier. And now for the tier list, and I won't lie, I'm very tempted to put Oliver and Company in the movie fans category. I don't feel like it's a better movie than the movies that would be below it. I don't believe it's better by a mile, but it does have a modern vibe that I believe will have more mainstream appeal for a general audience. In other words, while I don't think Oliver and Company is a better movie, Disney or otherwise, than The Great Mouse Detective, I do feel more comfortable recommending it to a general audience member, as I think the vibes of the movie are just more universal. I'm tempted to change my mind. I'm going to stick to my gut, and I'm going to put it in the Disney fans category, mainly because of its lack of historical significance. While I believe all the things I said before, I don't know if this movie will make anyone fall in love with it. Like, you may like Alice in Wonderland or you may not, but I know people who love Alice in Wonderland. I think Oliver and Company might have more people that like it, but I don't know that it does anything so well to make anybody love it. On top of that, the fact that it's not as relevant as those movies in front of it, nor is it as good in some cases, I feel like it's fair where it's at. That's going to do it for today's episode, guys. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notified for every review. We are continuing this series and making all movie reviews in 2025, so you don't want to miss that. You could also follow me on TikTok at Ralph's Rapid Review, and you can follow me on Instagram at Ralph's Review. And let me know in the comments, what do you think about Oliver and Company? Do we have a new King of Disney cats? I was thinking about that at the end, but let me know, guys, and thank you for watching.